Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Welcome to the course Principle in Animal Life 1. This is lecture number 39. The topic is Laws of Thermodynamics. Discussing agenda for the topic will be the laws of energy, first law of thermodynamics, and then second law of thermodynamics. Lecture outcome. After watching and listening this lecture, students will know about the laws of thermodynamics. Introduction. The laws of energy. The study of energy transformation that occur in a collection of matter is called thermodynamics. So thermodynamics deals with the conversion of energy from one form to another form in matter. Now, system is anything under study, anything under consideration, and they refer to the rest of the universe as surroundings. So everything outside the system is referred to as surroundings. Now, the system can be a large one like an atomic reactor or a small one like a thermos. Now, the systems are of different types on the basis of the exchange of matter and energy with the surroundings. So an isolated system is one which neither exchange matter nor energy with the surroundings. So such as that approximated by liquid in a thermos bottle. So that is an isolated system which does not exchange matter and energy with the surroundings. Isolated system is unable to exchange either energy or matter with its surroundings outside the thermos. On the other hand, we have an open system. An open system is one where energy and matter can be transferred between the system and its surroundings. So living organisms are open systems and they exchange matter and energy with their surroundings. They absorb energy from, for instance, light energy or chemical energy in the form of organic molecules, and release heat and metabolic waste products such as carbon dioxide to the surroundings. So the green plants have chlorophyll, which is the center of photosynthesis, and the chlorophyll traps the sunlight energy in the presence of carbon dioxide and water and synthesizes organic molecules, and then the plants are the primary producers. The animals feed upon plants, and therefore these organic molecules are transferred to the bodies of animals. Now, two laws of thermodynamics govern energy transformation in organisms and all other collection of matter. So this transformation of energy, this exchange of materials between the system and its surroundings, these are under the effect of two laws of thermodynamics. Now we come to the first law, which is also known as the law of conservation of energy. This law says that the energy of the universe is constant. energy can be transferred and transformed. Energy can be transferred from one body to another, from one system to another, and it can be transformed. It can be converted from one form to another form. Suppose potential energy in the chemical bonds is converted into ATP, and then ATP drives the bodies of living organisms. So energy conversion from one form to another and from one individual to another is possible, but it cannot be created or destroyed. Energy is not something which can be created or destroyed. Just like in the aerobic cellular respiration, ATPs are produced, but the ATPs are produced from the energy which was present in chemical form, in the chemical bonds, in potential form. That energy was yielded and incorporated into ATP molecules. The first law is also known as the principle of conservation of energy. So it means that the energy of the universe remains constant. It is conserved. It is neither created nor destroyed. Now, the electric company does not make energy, but merely converts it to a form that is convenient for us to use. So imagine the process of hydroelectric power generation. The water is made to fall from an altitude, and then this flowing water is used to drive turbines, and then turbines produce electricity. So the energy which was stored in that water molecule as it fall from a high altitude, this potential energy, because of the position, because of the altitude of water, converted into kinetic energy, and that kinetic energy drive the turbines, and the turbines produce electricity. So one form of energy is being converted into another form. Now, as far as the living organisms are concerned, by converting sunlight to chemical energy refers to the synthesis of organic molecules, that is glucose. A plant acts as an energy transformer, not an energy producer, because sunlight is the ultimate source of energy. So the energy in the sunlight is incorporated into organic molecules, and organic molecules hold those energy in their bonds. You can refer to that energy as potential energy or chemical energy. Now the figure 1a shows a brown bear, and it will convert the chemical energy of organic molecules in its food to kinetic energy and other forms of energy as it carries out biological processes. So this brown bear is feeding upon fish, and the fish feed upon the phytoplanktons or the zooplanktons or the aquatic plants, and the aquatic plants trap energy from sunlight in the synthesis of organic molecules. So first they trapped sunlight energy in the form of organic molecules, transferred to the body of fish, and now the fish became a meal for the brown bear. So the energy is being transformed from one form to another form in the food chain. Now this chemical energy, which is stored in the organic molecules in their bonds in the form of chemical energy, this energy is derived in aerobic cellular respiration, in glycolysis, Krebs cycle, and electron transport chain. This chemical energy is used for the synthesis of ATP molecules, and then the ATP molecules drives the bodies of animals, perform different functions in the bodies of animals, like the synthesis of macromolecules, the movement of materials across plasma membrane, the movement of muscles, their contraction and relaxation, and the locomotion of animals. And some form of that energy is wasted as heat. It is released as heat, and the end product of aerobic cellular respiration is carbon dioxide, which is produced in link reaction and Krebs cycle, and water molecules, which are also produced during these processes. And water is produced when the electrons combine with oxygen at the end of electron transport chain. So energy can be transferred or transformed, but neither created nor destroyed. For example, chemical reactions in this brown beer will convert the chemical, which is potential energy in the fish, into the kinetic energy for running. Now what happens to this energy after it has performed work? Now the question arises here from the first law of thermodynamics, which says that energy can neither be created nor destroyed. So the major question which arises here is that if energy cannot be destroyed, then why the animals are in constant need of energy from outside? Why our bodies cannot run forever after the consumption of an organic molecule? Because the first law says that energy can neither be destroyed. So why not this energy is used again and again? So this is a question which results after the statement of the first law of thermodynamics. Now the answer to that question is given by the second law of thermodynamics. The second law of thermodynamics says that during every energy transformation, some form of the energy is wasted as heat. So if energy cannot be destroyed, why can't organisms simply recycle their energy over and over again? Why organisms are in constant need of energy from the surroundings? So the answer is, it turns out that during every energy transferred or transformed, some energy is converted to thermal energy and released as heat, becoming unavailable to work. So heat cannot perform work during normal circumstances. Heat can only perform work when there is a temperature gradient. When the heat flows from a hotter body to a cold body, then only in those circumstances the heat which flows towards the colder body can perform work and raise the temperature of the colder body. Only a small fraction of the chemical energy from the food in figure 1a is transformed into motion of the brown bear shown in figure b. Most is lost as heat. You can see the heat liberating from the body, and this is the lost energy. It cannot be utilized to perform work, which dissipates rapidly through the surroundings. A system can put thermal energy to work only when there is a temperature difference, a temperature gradient, means difference in the temperature of two bodies. The result in thermal energy flowing is heat from a warmer location to a cooler location. So only in those circumstances the heat energy can be utilized to perform work if there is a temperature gradient. If temperature is uniform, as it is in a living cell, then the heat generated during a chemical reaction will simply warm a body of matter such as the organisms. A consequence of the loss of usable energy as heat to the surroundings is that each energy transfer or transformation makes the universe more disordered. So this liberation of heat, the wastage of energy in the form of heat, is increasing the disorder of the system. In other words, you can say the term entropy. Entropy is the degree of disorder of a system. So as the energy being wasted as heat, it increases the disorder of the system, the entropy of the system, and because of this disorder the system is not 100% efficient. We are all familiar with the word disorder in the case of messy room or a run-down building. So the word disorder is used by scientists, however, have a specific molecular definition related to how dispersed the energy in a system and how many different energy levels are present. For simplicity, we use disorder in the following discussion because our common understanding, the messy room, the disordered room, is a good analogy for molecular disorder. Now, scientists use a quantity called entropy as a measure of molecular disorder or randomness. The more randomly arranged a collection of matter is, the greater its entropy. So we can now state the second law of thermodynamics as every energy transfer or transformation increases the entropy of the universe because some part of this energy is unable to perform work and is wasted as heat, and it increases the disorder in the system. Although order can increase locally, but there is an unstoppable trend toward randomization of the universe as a whole. So you can make a particular system ordered, a particular system efficient, but if you consider the global level, then these, because of those energy transformations which are occurring globally, this system is moving towards more randomness, more disorder. The physical disintegration of a system's organized structure is a good analogy for an increase in entropy. For example, you can observe increasing entropy in the gradual decay of unmaintained building over time. So the process of wear and tear and degradation occurs in a building if it is not looked after, if it is not maintained properly. Much of the increasing entropy of the universe is more abstract, however, because it takes the form of increasing amount of heat and less ordered forms of matter. Now, once again we go to that diagram. As the bear in figure 1b converts chemical energy to kinetic energy, it is also increasing the disorder of its surroundings by producing heat and small molecules such as carbon dioxide. It exhales, it expires, that are the breakdown product of food. Recall from our lecture of link reaction and Krebs cycle where the carbon dioxide molecules are produced. So these carbon dioxide molecules are exhaled to the surroundings. The concept of entropy helps us understand why certain processes are energetically favorable and occur on their own. It turns out that if a given process by itself leads to an increase in entropy, that process can proceed without requiring an input of energy. So here in these two lines, basically the exothermic reactions are considered, which are spontaneous, which occurs on their own, which does not require any input of energy. But when the products are formed, the products are at a lower energy level than the reactants, and the energy which is liberated, some of it is used in performing work, whereas some amount of it is used in increasing the entropy of the system. Such a process is called a spontaneous process, which occurs on its own and which doesn't require any input of energy. Now, note that we are using it here. The word spontaneous does not imply that the process would occur quickly. Rather, the word signifies that it is energetically favorable. It can occur on its own without the input of energy, and therefore the liberated energy will be used to perform work, and some of it will be wasted as heat and increase the entropy of the system. In fact, it may be helpful for you to think of the phrase energetically favorable when you read the formal term spontaneous, the word preferred by chemists. So spontaneous reactions are usually those reactions which takes place on their own and doesn't require the input of energy, like the exothermic reactions. Some spontaneous reactions, such as an explosion, may be virtually instantaneous, while others, such as the rusting of an old car over time, are much slower. So spontaneous doesn't refer to the fact that a reaction will occur suddenly in split seconds, but it refers to a process which occurs on its own. Now, at which pace it will occur, it can be as fast as an explosion, and it can be as slow as the rusting or corrosion of a old car. Now, a process that on its own leads to a decrease in entropy is said to be non-spontaneous. It will happen only if energy is supplied. So the endothermic reactions are non-spontaneous because they require the input of energy, and therefore they doesn't leads to the increase in the entropy of the system, because the energy which is given to endothermic reactions is quite often stored in the molecules as chemical energy or potential energy and is not wasted. We know from experience that certain events occur spontaneously and others do not. For instance, we know that water flows downhill spontaneously but moves uphill only when an input of energy is provided, such as when a machine pumps the water against gravity. So the falling of water from a high altitude is a spontaneous process which occurs without the input of energy. And if you want to carry water from ground to an altitude, then you will have to provide this water some energy, and the machine pumps do the job, and they move the water to high altitude against gravity. So some of that energy is inevitable lost as heat, increasing entropy in the surroundings. So usage of energy during non-spontaneous processes also leads to an increase in the entropy of the universe as a whole, although the contribution is much lesser as compared to spontaneous reactions, but they do contribute overall to the entropy of the universe. Recall from the previous slides the sentence which says that the entropy of a system or entropy can be decreased locally, but there is a continuous trend towards increase in entropy globally or in the universe. So once again, this diagram, the first law of thermodynamics, says that the energy of the universe remains constant. It can neither be created nor destroyed. The first law of thermodynamics is also called the law of conservation of energy. Now, the first law gives rise to a question that if energy can neither be created nor destroyed, then why this energy is not recycled again and again, and why the organisms are in constant need of energy? So the answer to that question is the second law of thermodynamics, which says that during every energy transformation, some energy is used to perform work, whereas some of the energy is wasted in the form of heat, and the heat energy cannot perform work, and it increases the entropy or the randomness or the disorder of the system, and heat can only perform work when there is a temperature gradient, when it flows from an area of higher temperature towards an area of lower temperature. Now, the second law of thermodynamics also predicts the end of the universe, because with the passage of time, the heat is being accumulated in the atmosphere in the universe, and a time will come, perhaps after millions of years, a time will come when the heat will be uniformly distributed throughout the universe. So now in this case, the heat cannot perform work. If the heat is uniformly distributed, it cannot perform work. So they are of the opinion that when such a time occurs, it will be ultimately the end of the universe, where no work will be possible. This was the end of the lecture. Thank you very much. Allah Hafiz.